Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information. Anything from news, politics, lifestyle, fires. I think that's the new lifestyle these days. What the kids are up to, what the orcas are up to, the occult,
Orcai.
anything.
Is it
Anything.
one orca,
Anything.
two orcai?
Or no, because I thought that was only for like when it ends in US, like cacti, cactus.
No. Like
Is it really?
amoebae, AE.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a Latin thing.
No kidding. I dropped out of Latin.
Plural of something that ends with A, if it's Latin, is AE.
But that's pronounced bi, amoebae. I always just said amoebas. Well, we talk about amoebas on this show, as you can see.
True, and protozoa, yeah.
Protozoa. Cytoplasts.
Sure.
Ends in an S. Yeah, you can never have too much information. That's what we believe. So if you're looking for a straight-laced, button-down show, this is not going to be for you.
Stay anyway. It's cool.
Stay, yeah.
We won't tell anyone.
Give us a chance. Give us a chance.
It'll be our little secret.
But lower the volume because we do, drop F-bombs here and there. Hopefully not gratuitously, Ted. It is also
probably gratuitously, mostly. Yeah.
No, we're working on that, especially me, because I have a little one in the house, and yeah, it's a whole thing. All you parents know. It is all the stuff you know that you want to hear more about, and then random stuff you didn't know that you needed to know. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, so please be sure to like and follow this show. I got to push on those folks on YouTube. We are getting dangerously close to finally becoming monetized. Please help us get there. If you're watching the show, please just hit that subscribe
Don't worry, it's not going to make us rich. It's going to give us pennies, literally pennies.
Yes, but we'll grow those pennies, hopefully, into, when the masses start watching. We can grow those pennies into an actual source of viable income for us after being laid off last fall. So here we are.
And more to the point, making the show viable.
Yes, that's so we can keep doing this for you. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button if you are on YouTube. Our folks over in the Rumble Room, good morning to you. The chat is always fire in there. If you are in the chat and you'd like to subscribe to this program and become a $5 a month or greater monthly subscriber, you can do so by hitting the white subscribe button that's below the chat box where you input your whatever you're about to say, the shade, the love, whatever.
Mostly
so
shade.
On today's show, we are going to be talking about security. This time, and we're a week out, Ted, from the Trump inauguration. He's number 45 and number 47. We're a week out from inauguration. I wonder if the security measures are going to be different. And also, a little bit of a different angle for the United Health CEO, Brian Thompson, his murder, and what the CEO class, like if they're all quaking in their boots, if people, in those high powered jobs, like what's happening in that world. We're going to talk to a security expert about that a little bit later on in the show. So with that, let's hop to some headlines.
The death toll from the devastating Los Angeles wildfires has risen to 24 over the weekend, with more than 10,000 structures inside the city's metro area damaged or destroyed. Officials say the fires may be the costliest in U.S. history. The cause has not yet been identified, although there's some hints as to what may have happened here. This may date back to a fire that was originally started in conjunction with fireworks for New Year's Eve. That started a fire that the fire department put out, but apparently the heat sort of stays underground for a while, and it may have sparked back up when the winds came. That's probably what happened here. Also, I'm sure that the death toll is much higher than 24. A lot of bodies have been completely incinerated, so it'll take a while to decide who's missing and who's dead. The two primary fires currently are the Palisades fire to the west and the Eaton fire on the east side of LA. The former, around 10% contained as of this morning, destroyed the affluent Pacific Palisades neighborhood and left parts of nearby Malibu and Santa Monica under evacuation orders. The Eaton fire is about 30% contained, but has burned through the suburbs of Altadena and surrounding areas. Strong Santa Ana winds blowing west from the desert down the San Gabriel Mountains are expected to return today and tomorrow, threatening to spread the flames toward the city. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's like incredible to see all of that, Ted, and but also incredible to see. I'm gonna roll that video back just a moment ago. Well, we saw volunteers and what have you, and people donating stuff, which, you know, I hate to knock my peeps, but LA is known for being pretty self-absorbed. However, when something horrific like this happens, it's so nice to see that people like actually care about their neighbors, because I feel like Californians really get a bad rap about, you know, just being into their own vanity. So in many ways,
Angelinos are better though than like San Francisco Bay Area people. They're scum. They won't help you if you're in trouble. They'll if you break down on the side of the road, they will not stop and help you. They may stop and mug you, but they're not going to help you. They're assholes.
Well, we do that too. We do a lot of mugging and stuff too. Like
Angelinos,
there's looting right now. There's
but
looting.
Angelinos, I've seen it. Angelinos, they have solidarity. I've seen it over and over again.
Yes,
they really. It's because they know they live in a big city, and like New Yorkers, when you know you live in a big city and there's a crisis, you know you gotta help each other, because nobody's gonna make it unless you do. In San Francisco, they don't know that they live in a big city. They think it's still like the 1960s. They're all
like a hippie
they're all
town.
stoned, and they're all like hippy dippy, and so they like kind of like, dude, like, you know, I mean, really? Truly, they're the worst. They're the absolute worst.
Yeah, NorCal and SoCal, two very different places, and for, you know, like I have, my family is mostly on the northeast side, but below the 210 freeway, which is south of the fires, and it doesn't look like as of yet that the Eaton fire is going to hop over the freeway. So my family wise, they'll be okay. My friends, however, are out on the west side, not in the Palisades, but you know, like West LA, Santa Monica, you know, because those are like the hip parts of town, and you know, like people move out that way to be near the beach. So
the air's better
friends,
too, usually.
Yeah, usually. So there's where I'm from, Whittier, the area that's not going to be on fire or on not
right in the middle there.
Isn't that crazy? For whatever reason, we're not under like red flag air alerts. Ted, you would die and suffocate out there because
I know.
Everybody, as you can see, all those areas that are colored right there, they're all on like danger red alert air warnings. Like stay inside your home. If you have air purifiers, turn them on. If you go outside, you got to put on, you know, like oxygen masks, basically, because it's like a nuclear bomb went off there, right? There's toxins all in the air because of all the plastic and the chemicals. So I think, you know, besides the what it looks like being war ravaged, almost, it looks like freaking Gaza in some places, like it just completely flattened. The air quality is like, it's not working with the ocean. Like the ocean air is like pushing up against the Santa Ana winds that are coming down through the San Gabriel Mountains, as this guy, the weatherman, is showing there. So it's like trapping all the shit along all the burn areas. So that is no good. So Ted, don't travel to California for a while. That's all I can say.
No plans to do so. All right. And let's move on to our next story. Special Counsel Jack Smith has resigned from the Justice Department.
I'm so sad.
Yeah, well, no one saw this one coming. After submitting his report on Trump, an expected move that comes amid legal wrangling over how much of the document can be made public in the days ahead. All of it, it's supposedly the land of the free. The department disclosed Smith's departure in a court filing on Saturday, saying that he had resigned a day earlier. The resignation, 10 days before the inauguration, follows the conclusion of 2 unsuccessful criminal prosecutions against Trump that were withdrawn after Trump won in November. At issue now is the fate of a 2-volume report that Smith and his team prepared about their twin investigations into Trump's efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election results and his misuse of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. The Justice Department had been expected to make the document public in the final days of the Biden administration, but the Trump-appointed judge who presided over the classified documents case, Eileen Cannon, granted a defense request to at least temporarily halt its release. I don't give 2 shits about the Mar-a-Lago documents report, and I think it'll be boring as hell, and you can keep that one. But I want to see the other one. I want that report. I want to read it. It's ours. We paid for it. There's no reason not to release it.
Wait,
let's have it.
The J6 part?
Yeah. That's the only thing that arguably Trump ever did that Trump really did wrong and ought to have been prosecuted for. The other stuff was all bullshit.
Well, the only problem is because they have linked two others that are related to Trump and tangentially, like, isn't one of those guys like his groundskeeper or some shit like that? Like,
that's right.
Like, at Mar-a-Lago, like, you're indicting the groundskeeper at Mar-a-Lago? Like,
or was it the security guy with the cameras? Remember, he had like
I don't remember.
Turn off the cameras, the security cameras.
I think that's him. He's not security. I think it's the groundskeeper. I think that's the same guy we're talking about.
Probably.
But it's like, dude, he's a groundskeeper, and like you're just. But anyway, there's 2 outstanding trials still going on, so that makes sense to me. Why other documents are not being released at this time until those things get resolved. But here's the thing: in a week from today, even if those men got convicted of whatever crimes, the DOJ was accusing them of, their boss, Donald Trump, can just wipe the slate clean for them in an instant, right? Like just instant pardon because, he's coming in as a lame duck. He's already talked about pardoning. And I feel like that's not like a negative look for the incoming POTUS, because guess what? The outgoing POTUS has set the precedent of being like, I'm just going to pardon everybody. I'm going to pardon my kid. I'm going to pardon everybody. I'm going to pre-pardon Liz Cheney. I'm going to pre-pardon the entire Cheney clan just in case. I'm just going to pre-pardon people.
Well, he didn't do that, to be clear.
Well, he wants to. They've talked about it. They've said so.
Yeah.
He's verbalized it. So I don't know. He's got a week to do that. So there's still a possibility that Biden could and would do that. But the fact that he even verbalized the idea of a pre-pardon, I think is setting precedent. So when this guy comes into office, if he wants to, pardon his groundskeeper, so be it. And then, then have at it with all those reports, whatever, have at it. I think it's a fair reason to not release those things. And look.
Okay.
Jack Smith is a douche.
Well, he does have a future. I'm not going to say anything bad about him because he's likely to become a bartender at a hip bar in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. He looks like central casting for cool hipster bartender.
Of a bartender?
Hipster bartender in Brooklyn. So, I don't want him to spike my drink or anything. So, Jack, love you. A pair of North Korean soldiers fighting for Russia were captured by Ukrainian forces. That, according to the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, it marks the first time North Korean forces have been taken alive and held for questioning since their arrival at the front lines. The 2 soldiers were captured in the Kursk Oblast. Important to understand, this is part of Russia. It's not in Ukraine, Zelensky said in a post on X. While estimates vary, analysts think that North Korea sent about 10,000 troops to assist Russia sometime in October. The group represents less than 1% of North Korea's 1.3 million person military, although how effective or good they are in combat is unknown since the country hasn't had a war since 1953. Separately, the U.S. leveled a new round of sanctions against Russia's energy sector, including so-called shadow fleets of ships supposedly secretly ferrying oil and gas. The restrictions are expected to impact China and India, which have become top destinations for Russian energy exports since the start of the war. I would not hold my breath that there will be much efficacy to those sanctions. Just saying.
Well, Ted, remember, I feel like we were at the cutting edge of reporting on those said shadow fleets, because no one had ever heard about them until, those undersea cables got cut to like Estonia or whatever. Mm-hmm. And suddenly there's, but it's a Chinese flagship. But it's at the behest of the Russians. But it's, like a Caribbean island flagship owned by, some Greek bazillionaire. Yeah, but it was at the behest of the Russians. So,
everything
the shadow fleet
is at the behest of the Russians. Post-nasal drip is at the behest of the Russians.
I believe the pneumonia I had and still recovering from, the behest of the Russians. They have no mercy. They're everywhere.
I just think it's interesting that the Russians are catching shit for, getting their North Korean allies to come help them kick the Ukrainians out of Russia. It's
out of their own land.
They're in Russia. It's not like cheating. Okay, these are your ally. It's no more cheating than Ukraine getting help from NATO. I mean, really.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it is this is Kursk is Russian territory, and people are making a big hubbub about North Koreans being there. They were invited there. They were invited to Russia, and it's the Ukrainians that have invaded Kursk. So, this is, and having these two guys captured. I listened to the audio. I don't speak Korean, but
wait, you're Asian. Don't all Asian people speak all Asian languages?
I know that guy right there. That's Hung Sun.
Oh, yeah. You went to
he's
high
totally
school together.
Yeah. I know his older sister. We went to college together. North Korean. So. Yeah, I would like to ask some of my Korean friends to listen to the audio and see if the translation is correct.
That often is not the case. It's a good point.
Yeah, I would like to have my own Korean friends tell me if, what they're printing there is real or not. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But allegedly these two guys, one of them says I want to go home. I'm a POW. The guy that's laying down is like, I don't know. I would like to stay here if I can. If not, depends on this guy. I don't know. Whatever my orders are, if I'm told to go back home, then I guess I'll go home. But I don't know. They claim that these soldiers didn't know where they were, that they didn't know what they were fighting, that they were told they were doing military drills in Russia. But that's all.
Well, who knows? All right.
Yeah, we don't know. I'd like to hear real translation because I don't trust the translation coming out of Ukrainian, Korean allies.
No, I mean, I've been burned by that a few times. There was the very famous, after 9/11, there was a video that was leaked of Osama bin Laden talking to some of his buddies about 9/11. Mm-hmm. And the translation basically had it the headline was bin Laden admits responsibility for 9/11. And when you actually got the translation from Al Jazeera, no, he did not. He said that in the translation, he says, basically, as an architect, I was surprised at how quickly the buildings came down. I couldn't believe they were so shoddily constructed. It's
Wait, is that what bin Laden's trained profession was?
Yeah, he was an architect. Mm-hmm. His whole family is a family of architectural designers. I mean, the space at the where they have the Hajj with the big cube, right? Where so that's a whole complex that the bin Laden family, very close to the Saudi royal family, they designed that. I mean, can you imagine what an incredibly high profile, they designed Mecca. Yeah, basically. So
the bin Laden family's a bunch of architects?
They're a bunch of architects, yeah. Yeah, basically they're like Trump, kind of. They're developers and architects.
No kidding. I did not know that. I knew that he came from a wealthy, well-educated Saudi family, but I didn't
Mhm.
know that it was in particular that.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Wow.
that's the story. So he said, like, so most of the interview, he just talks about, like, no, I just couldn't believe that fucker came down so fast. I
So
thought
he
that
was
wouldn't
speaking
happen.
professionally, like,
That's right. And he doesn't ever say, like,
wow.
I knew this, we were, man. He does say, like, good job, but he doesn't, like, but he's not saying, like, oh, I knew, I signed off on this. He never said that.
No.
To this day, there's really not really much solid evidence that he was behind this. And I kind of think what really happened here is that Al Qaeda, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, those people, they basically told him probably before it happened, like, hey, we've got something going on, as like a gesture of respect, because he was
Yeah.
very respected following the anti-Soviet jihad in Afghanistan. He was very beloved in like the world of radical jihad. But I don't know that he was like the guy the mastermind who
Right.
planned it. It's more
Well,
like, it's sort of like if I say to you, hey, I've got a new book coming out, which I do. And it's like, but that doesn't really mean you're responsible. You didn't tell me to write the book. You didn't finance it. You didn't have any part in writing it. I just told you. Knowing that
now
something's going to happen is not the same thing as being in charge of it.
speaking of plans, Ted, on the screen, I paused it there because I don't know if these are like attack plans from North Korea drawn on draft paper. But or this might be like somebody explaining what the attack drones are,
Mhm.
because based on the video that I've seen, going into this topic, it looked like the young North Korean men, seeing the attack drones coming at them, had never seen anything like that before.
Mm.
They looked bewildered.
Well, why would they? I mean,
How would they, like,
yeah.
so it was just very strange. They looked bewildered, like they'd never seen this kind of technology before. But
And they hadn't been told about it, I guess.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're looking at, is less plan and more of like description to their superiors of like, here's me, and like our formation, and this thing came flying out of the sky. It looked like this.
Mhm.
But very, very strange story overall on that one with the North Koreans and how it's being presented in the West.
Okay, let's move on. Speaking of strange stories, on Friday, the Supreme Court appeared poised to uphold the congressional ban on TikTok, largely dismissing the app's argument that it ought to be able to exist in the U.S. under the First Amendment's free speech protections, and agreeing with the government's concerns that it poses a threat to national security. Put simply, the justices seem to think that national security is more important than free speech. Congress doesn't care about what's on TikTok. They care about the expression. They don't care about the expression, claimed Chief Justice John Roberts during questioning, clarifying that's shown by the remedy. They're not saying TikTok has to stop. They're saying that the Chinese have to stop controlling TikTok. Although, look, that's sophistry, right? I mean, if you force a sale, that's assuming that there is a buyer, and we don't know that. I mean, it's still an attempt to, it could end up stopping because of that. What's the threat? U.S. lawmakers are concerned about the Chinese government having access to enormous amounts of Americans' data, and fear the app could be used to spread Beijing's agenda. Okay, what are they going to do with that data that they don't already have? And what's Beijing's agenda that they could spread? And how would this look? Anyway, Facebook and other American social media platforms are banned in China. Beijing takes a similar view to that of the U.S. government. They also don't have a First Amendment over there. The justices seem worried that TikTok could be used for espionage or even blackmail. If the court rules against the app, it would mean that ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, has to divest from the company within 6 days before January 19th, or face a national ban on the grounds of national security grounds. But we don't even know what those national security grounds really are. The app would no longer be available on the Google or Apple app stores, but it won't disappear from your phone if you already have it downloaded. I guess I should go ahead and download it now because I don't have it. The ban would only affect future downloads without the ability to update the app, however, it would probably start to degrade, and TikTok would then block US viewers before that happens to avoid further legal issues. Incoming President Trump has pledged to save the app, but there's no clear way to do so due to the congressional legislation.
He's the one that initiated the idea of banning it in 2016 or 17,
True.
rather. Like,
True.
this is so funny to me. Like, I have the app. I don't know. I don't use it. I don't really but I get it. It's a huge cultural phenomenon, especially with younger millennials and the Gen Zers.
Mm-hmm.
The young people your son's age, right? Like, that's their thing. They live on TikTok. I get it. But like, I know how devastating that is for them, because like for them, that's part of their reality. That's part of their life. Right. But what I don't understand the US argument for this, Ted. They have never presented how this is actually a threat to Americans writ large, their data.
They just say the same thing over and over again.
Right.
We're supposed to listen to that. Like, it's what's national security, national security, national security. Okay.
But what's the national, like, what national security? Like,
please
like,
be specific.
What? Like, what is it? So if they're like, well, you're going to have the Chinese government's going to have American user data. Well, guess what? All the people that shop on Wish and Temu, which is like in the tens and tens and tens of millions of Americans, like let's say 100 million Americans use Temu and Wish and all these other, Chinese shopping apps that are, subsidized by the Chinese government anyways. So it's like no one needs to use TikTok to spy on Americans or get, get blackmail information by TikTok. There are other means to do it. And I feel like you're just going to cripple a lot of American businesses that rely on TikTok, as well as break the hearts of a gazillion young people that literally live on TikTok. Even though I don't get it myself. It's not my thing, but
no, I don't. I don't get it either. I tried to figure it out. It just didn't make any sense to me. But, I mean, look, I will say this will have a corrosive political effect. I mean, young people are already, questioning of the political system, and that this will just reinforce their view that, like, the political system is run by the olds who don't get it or don't like them, and don't take their concerns or their opinions seriously, right? It's like, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. We don't care that you guys like, or in some cases make money off this platform. Like, fuck off.
Right. Like, just make some sense to the olds like us, Ted. If you're going to say national security, at least present to us how and why. Me personally, I don't give two shits about TikTok. Like,
me neither. Prove it. All right.
But I still want to know. Prove it.
All right. Not only are killer whales the largest of the dolphin family, but they're also recognized as one of the world's largest powerful aquatic apex predators. But did you know that they can speak? Over time, the toothed whales have evolved to swim up to 40 miles a day. They can hunt on land and are actually in possession of the largest marine mammal brain. Here's something that you may not know about orcas, however. They can apparently copy basic human words like hello and bye-bye. The recording is part of a 2018 study published in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society Biological Sciences, which saw experts from Germany, Spain, the UK, and Chile documenting how they discovered that orcas can mimic human language. Joseph Call, a professor in evolutionary origins of mind at University of St. Andrews and co-author, explained that the researchers initially wanted to find out how flexible a killer whale can be when it comes to copying sounds that they aren't used to. We thought that would be really convincing is to present them with something that is not in their repertoire. And in this case, hello is not what a killer whale would say, he said. The team carried out the research by first training a 14-year-old orca named Wiki to copy 3 familiar orca sounds made by her 3-year-old calf, then exposing her to 5 orca sounds she'd never heard before. Finally, Wiki heard a human make 3 orca sounds, then 6 human sounds, including hello, Amy, aha, 1, 2, and bye-bye. After listening to Wiki's responses, the team found that the orca was able to quickly copy the sounds, including nailing 2 of the human utterances on her first shot. Recordings of Wiki capture her attempts to mimic the human talking to her, and while admittedly some of the attempts sound like they've come from a goblin, others are eerily accurate. Listeners have been left unnerved by the recordings, with one viewer saying the hello sounded demonic.
It does not. Okay, let's play it just real briefly. A couple human words coming from Wiki. I don't particularly find her chortles or whatever
talking. She's talking.
She's not talking, but okay,
She is talking.
She's not scary. I'll just say that.
She is talking.
It doesn't. I find it kind of cute personally.
Hello. Hello. One, two. 1, 2. Amy.
That one wasn't so good.
Amy. Bye bye.
Oh. Bye bye. I think Amy.
It doesn't sound scary. It sounds kind of like a baby or something.
Yeah, I think it sounds cute. So but it's terrifying to think that do they have a voice box like humans, Ted? Do you know?
Well, clearly, because obviously they couldn't make that sound otherwise.
But that's kind of.
They must have a larynx. I mean, dolphins are mammals, so.
Yeah, it's scary in that sense, but that itself to me was not scary, but very cool.
Also, they're super smart, and if they can hunt on land, travel vast distances, and kill pretty much anything they want, soon they will be ruling the world, and we will be their vassals.
It's gonna the orca terror is coming.
It's the orca's world. We're only living in it.
Well, Ted, maybe our next guest will.
They're already killing.
Protect ourselves.
They're already
from the orcas.
Remember, they're attacking people's ships, right? Like off the
I knew they are.
Spain and Portugal.
They are, but that's because people are being assholes, like jet skiing around,
right?
And the orcas are
I'm on Team Orca when it comes to jet skis. I hate jet skis.
Me too. And then the orca mamas, and like me, like I'm a mama bear. Like I will swipe if somebody gets too close to my kid. That's what's happening with the orcas. Like you said, they're mammals too, and they're protective of their young. And so off the coast of Spain, all these jerks are cruising around too close to their habitat. And they're just knocking them over off their little,
and
little
I think
cruisers.
they've actually sunk some ships too.
Yeah. So
it's on.
But like I said, our security expert guest, that's I think his future. He's gonna need to figure out aquatic protection from like in the water onto land when the orcas learn to talk and take up arms and get opposable thumbs. We're done. We're done for. Just
all right. Let's bring him on.
Let's
Jaws. So rather than be followed by the expressions of sympathy and shock one might usually have expected in a situation like that, the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson here in New York was also greeted with ridicule and even approval by a substantial portion of the public, worried that copycat killers might take that response as a cue to replicate the alleged actions of accused shooter Luigi Mangione. CEOs and their companies are reconsidering their security measures with the inauguration just days away. How does this new climate inform the security landscape for that very high-profile political event? And back to the CEO front, are they paranoid or are they actually really at increased risk now? What can they and ordinary people worried about their own personal security do to make themselves safer? We are joined today by Mark Ledlow. He's a former U.S. Marine and the founder of Ledlow Security, a veteran-owned security company that offers worldwide asset protection, executive protection, and emergency response services. Ledlow specializes in threat and risk assessment services to private and government agencies. Mark, thanks for joining us here.
Oh, hold on, Mark. We can't hear you. Your microphone is muted. I know you said you had all this stuff set on autopilot, so we'll let you figure. We unfortunately have to figure it out as we go live on air, but that's fine.
That work?
There you are.
I had to do it on my end. Sorry.
There you are. A little bit of delay, but welcome to the TMI show. and you heard us, talking about all of this. You're a security expert. You're an ex-military guy. First, you got to expand your business, I think, into aquatics.
I think I need to get in with dolphins and orchids and all kinds of. Wow, the scientific and biology behind that was pretty crazy. You guys did a cool deep dive in that, and hearing them talk and say
No pun
hello.
They're crazy. The way they drown.
Fascinating,
they
isn't
can
it?
drown whales. They gang up on
Wow.
whales.
They
all
do.
around them.
Well, there's whole new research now on these orcas. And I know we're going like way off like
Right.
any wheelhouse here, but
Yeah.
these
Fascinating.
there are new orca gangs that are forming in the water. And normally they don't hunt like that, but this was like they're gangs, like
They're
new
adaptable.
gangs.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wild.
it's crazy what's happening in the water. So I don't know what's happening with literally what's in the water, but those orcas are becoming increasingly dangerous, and they never used to be dangerous to humans. And it's not the case anymore.
Okay. Right.
There you go.
Great combo over there. I enjoyed that part. That was like, I never thought about that.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, that's weird.
Congratulations on you guys' show. Looks like you're on episode 55.
That's right.
We are.
Cooking right along. I remember 55 like 4 years ago.
Humming along. Aw, humming along. Well,
Keep
okay.
going.
So we're here. Literally, today's Monday. We are a week out from the Trump inauguration. Obviously, we're on the heels of 2 attempts on his life. So I'm gonna put this video up from his last inauguration. We see this. I mean, do you think, first of all, looking at this in downtown DC, right in front of the DOJ, that's where that is. Do you think we're going to see this again this time around? Because that looks kind of unsafe, if you ask me.
I hope not. I hope not. But Trump being Trump, he's his own man. And I don't think anybody's going to tell him what to do. And if he feels he needs to do that to connect with the people that voted for him, that's what he's going to do. And I think I have heard, I listened to Dan Bongino quite a bit, and he's concerned about his safety that week in Washington, D.C. Look, the Iranians want to kill him, badly. And, he said, hey, if we don't have the hostages back on the day after I get inaugurated, there's going to be hell to pay. When Trump says something, he means it. And so I think the Iranians are aware he's going in office, which is our probably biggest adversary. And I looked at the girl named Sarah. She's a CIA expert on, I think it was on Sean Ryan's show. I'm a big follower of Sean Ryan, Navy SEAL. And they were talking about the ISIS issue coming across the border. And I heard this is what they're saying. I don't know if this is true, but this is what they're saying. There's like 1,000 ISIS terrorists that crossed the U.S. border in the last 4 years. And so with that being said, you have the lone wolves, copycatters that want to be, social media famous, like the guy that shot the CEO.
Or there's the situation in New Orleans, right, where it's an American.
Absolutely.
He didn't cross any border. He's been here all along.
Right.
That's
Self-radicalized ISIS.
Absolutely.
Well, when you doing having the security service that you have, like if you were in charge of this, what would you do? Just looking at that, I mean, what would you do?
You have to build up layers. You have to have layers of circles. Internal circle, and then layer it all out. And you have the Secret Service, of course. Internally, that's what they do. And then you have I go with the State Department, and then you have to privatize the extra outer layers. And I would say I'd be calling the DoD, Department of Defense, and the Pentagon, saying, hey, deploy the special forces, get them on the rooftops, get them on standby, get them plain clothes, being nondescript. I'd be using the special forces and the military like they have never seen before in DC. That's my thoughts. That's my theory. And I think I heard Dan Bongino mention, hey, we got to deploy special forces to supply adequate enough support for the inauguration next week. We have to. It's going to be, trust me, I think it's going to be There's a lot of people that do not want Trump in office. Why? Because he's going to shake things up. Obviously, we all know that, and that's what our foreign adversaries are afraid of. And so I think it's going to be we're going to lock that place down next week. You're not going to be able to get in and get out. I think it's going to be so tight. But my theory is I would deploy the special forces, bring them all home for the week, take them out of deployment, and I'd have your best in there, and they'd probably deputize them. I'm not sure how they do that there. And then I know the Secret Service, God bless them, they're overworked right now. They're stretched out. And with what happened with the last shooting, a lot of people have resigned. So leadership has resigned. So I'm hoping the administration finds somebody that's suitable to protect the presidency, the actual position of the presidency of the United States of America, because it is the public figure of who we are, regardless if it's Biden or Trump or whoever else has been. But being this, Trump got reelected by the people. He won the general election. It was by a landslide.
And the popular.
And the popular, exactly. He won it. So there's nothing to sue. There's nothing to litigate.
Mark,
he's the chosen person. Yeah.
Look at this massive people. Like for me, having been a DC reporter for 10 years now and seeing how this stuff is done, I get the sense that that bulletproof glass that's in front of Trump the first time, I think it's going to be taller this time.
Absolutely. It has to be.
But when you look at this crowd, I mean, there's no way that they can search everybody that's coming through there. There's no way that it's just, you can't. There's like millions of people descend on DC every inauguration, and having been on the streets as a reporter, and there's chaos actually on the streets. When I was out there in for the 2017 inauguration, I was there with all the rioters. We got, look at this. This is, obviously this is in front of, right? Like
millions,
there were
out there.
Rioters on the street, breaking windows and like starting fires in the parks and the trash cans, throwing things everywhere. It was complete chaos in the streets. And there was not a heavy police presence. And the few that were there, me just being there as a reporter, I felt unsafe because it was complete just bedlam, right? So if all the police forces are supposedly deployed to this, I mean, look at the masses of people. What about the rest of the people in the city? What about the rest of us when I feel like there's a good chance that there's going to be another riot or something from far left rabble rousers, the Antifa people, because that's who I saw last time. I feel like that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, I guarantee that's going to be happening after Trump is back in the administration, the White House. You're going to see that. To keep an eye on the college campuses, and they are teaching those college kids an ideology that's not necessarily America first. And I think the college campus, Antifa, BLM, I think they're going to all re-strategize. Maybe kind of join alliance with the remember the October 7th massacre that took place in Israel. They all aligned with Israel. They're all protesting against Israel on the college campuses. So I think what's going to happen, you'll see a massive thought process or almost a religion created from the college campus base across the country. But however, think about this. I think Trump won a lot of college kids' votes. I think a lot of college kids are rethinking. They go, "Hey, all my friends that are working right now, they're hit hard." So I think we saw a lot of votes from the college campuses go to Trump that are independent. For him,
do you think there's going to do you think because of that? And I can support that because he actually ticked way up on the youth vote and young males.
He did, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like perhaps it'll be less rioting.
I don't think you're going to look at that. You're going to see the college thing. I mean, I would say. I would sort of disagree that I think the left and liberals in general are pretty depressed right now post-election, and they're not like as enthusiastic as they were.
Oh, you think they're not shocked, Ted, this time?
I think they're like really. I mean, these are my people, and they're
Mhm.
buffed. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
like dispirited. They're like, oh, I can't believe we got destroyed like this, and
They're in
Biden
disbelief.
lied to us about his mental
Mhm.
acuity, and we got this ridiculous candidate in the form of Kamala Harris, and now what the hell do we do? But in terms of the inauguration, most colleges are out this month, right? They're
Right.
not in session.
are.
My
True.
kid's home right now. He's in
January?
still sleeping. Yeah, my kid's not back to school until until February 1st. Well, most kids are out till January 20th, 25th. So there's probably not any organizational capacity at this point anyway.
Good
They're all
point.
home with their parents.
Yeah, they're chilling. They're recovering from the holiday hangovers and stuff with their college friends, and hanging
Right.
out, having
Wow.
fun. But I think what the real concern for me is, from a military standpoint and from running a company, is the next 4 years are going to be hellacious because we have millions and millions of people that crossed over that border that are going to create havoc, and we don't know who they are. And there's going to be a massive deportation taking place as soon as Trump gets in office, and we don't know who these people are. Probably the baddest of the baddest out there. And so that's to be honest with you, my biggest concern is not really the inauguration. They're going to have that place locked down so quickly. I don't think there's going to be an attempt on Trump when he goes in.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. They're going to have that locked down. They're going to have every specialized agent, soldier, ops guy, men and women
Mark,
out there.
Mark,
Yeah,
you
there
act
were
like
two.
you act
There were two attempted assassinations, one of which was really serious.
right, but like, do you really think that the Secret Service, from top down, have really learned their lesson? Because we've seen them testify. First, the lady that was in charge, I forget her name, and so she finally she dug her heels in for weeks.
Yeah,
For weeks after the
right.
first attempt, dug her heels in. So she finally gets pressured to leave. Then the guy that replaces her,
Mhm.
he goes in and he also digs his heels in and is like, we didn't mess up. We did great. But the whole rest of the country saw what we saw, and we're like,
Absolutely.
no,
Right.
you didn't do really good. So can we actually trust the Secret Service to actually be doing their jobs this time around?
Yeah, I think you're right. Manila, there's not a trust in the government right now. There's a lack of trust in the FBI. There's a lack of trust in that place called Washington D.C. that can take care of the rest of the country. They're about themselves and taking care of themselves first. They could care less about the U.S. So you have a valid point, and I think that's how most of the country feels. But I know how powerful our military is, and I think if they use as an ad hoc to the inauguration day with the military folks,
Like beyond Secret Service.
Yes.
I feel like Secret Service has shown the gap in their field of view when planning. Like I am no security expert. I'm just some like suburban mom reporter. I mean, that's my only security experience, is having, been on the field as a reporter for many years. But as a suburban mom, when you show me the layout of that rally, I'd be like, wait a minute, why is that building not secured? Like, I'm no expert.
Well, the shooter was on top of a building.
Where's the area support by
where
Secret Service?
the cops were inside the building.
Like, this is
You can't make this stuff up.
Right.
No, it's
Can't
kinda
make it
like,
up.
if it was a show, you'd be like, that's not true. You have to send that to rewrite. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And I know how good the Secret Service really is. I work with them, in my career. I work around them. I know how professional these folks are. And that was a bad look that day. That was bad. I mean, almost killed Trump that day.
Yeah.
And so I can see why the general public listening to your show would think, can the Secret Service really protect Trump on Inauguration Day? God, I hope so. For the sake of the country, I hope so.
But do you think this problem was a top-down thing? Like, because
Leadership, everything falls from everything comes from the top. Leadership rises and falls from the top. It does. And so I'm sure Trump is going to, getting new leadership in there. I'm not sure. Heard Dan Bongino was being looked at. I don't know. Not sure. I'm not in the inner circle.
You feel better about the people pounding the pavement that are Secret Service than the leadership, it sounds like.
Well said. Yeah, well said. I think leadership has been caught in the political crossfire. And, Secret Service are the best of the best in the world, in my opinion. And then we also have the best of the best military force in the world. And I think the Secret Service will have to rely on Special Forces folks to really help them out in the next 4 years. I think that you're going to see a collaboration partnership like no other to keep the presidency, safe from harm's way. Trump's going to get in there. He's going to shake the world up. You watch.
We know.
you know what we did the first time, because that was like boot camp for his first 4 years. Now he's going back in there. Everything's going to be on stealth mode. And I think the world knows it. I think Putin recognizing it, our adversary sees it, and they go, oh, crap, what do we do now?
Yeah, and he's going in as a lame duck. So he's like really, he has nothing to worry about this year, this time around.
But as far as inauguration, I think, you're going to see probably different approaches. What they usually used to do, he's not going to probably do for the sake of his own safety. But it's going to be an interesting day. I think the whole world's going to be watching, because we're all anticipating something to happen because of what the Secret Service has shown us during his campaign. It's like, what the heck? Why do we have people protecting him half his size, trying to cover his leg?
That's
they don't even know how to holster or they don't even know weapon system handling in front of the vehicle. It's like
that's a lot of the woke DEI stuff that's starting to get abandoned from corporate America downwards, little by little. It's getting peeled away, which I think when it comes to security and militarily speaking, like, I mean, I'm sure you would much rather have a guy that's Ted size, who's like 6'3", 6'4", have your 6 than a little 5'5", 100-pound Asian lady. Like, I'm sure you'd rather Ted have your 6, not me. But
I think that was the JV team that day with Trump in Pennsylvania.
Hopefully they're, I mean, I would like to think that after screwing up so badly, the Secret Service is looking to redeem themselves, and they're like putting out the word, we can't have anything like this ever happen again. Let's pivot a little bit to the CEO question.
Absolutely.
Immediately after the shooting of Brian Thompson here in Manhattan, the public reaction has been kind of mixed, I'll say. But I've never seen a gleeful reaction to a shooting of anybody. I'm 61 years old. I've just never seen, a public, a person who is not like a war criminal, like, Osama bin Laden or someone like that, their death be, greeted with such glee. And, we can set aside the whole politics of, why that is. And people definitely have good reason to hate healthcare companies. But I guess the question is, and we've heard that CEOs and corporations have been amping up their security.
They have been.
They've been taking private information, personal information offline, so it's not as easy to find out who these people are and where they live, maybe, and all that kind of thing. But is it reasonable to view that as kind of a quantum singularity? Like, it's not like people are going to be. How likely is someone to be inspired by an event like this and say, "Wow, look at Luigi Mangione. I mean, he's people love him." They might love me too if I did something similar. Or is it kind of like that happens and then that's it, and there's not really that much more to worry about?
Well, I'll tell you a story. I was in Dallas getting my hair cut by a barber. And this lady was probably 20 years old. And she told me a story about how that shooter, that CEO, is like an American hero to the underage 30 generation. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Well, this is how they think. Most of them are thinking they live day to day. They have given up hope of trying to have that house with a white picket fence. They have given up hope of having a career. They just don't believe in the American dream anymore. They've given up hope. They live with mom and dad, and if they can pay their bills today, they just live for today. And what they see that guy did was he shot the CEO who has killed thousands of patients because that company refused to pay out policy payments for cancer, where they've had a friend or family, a loved one that had died under that guy's watch. That's how they feel. I'm like, really? Wow. And she's actually coming on my podcast to share that story. It was like, whoa, I don't think that way, but the young generation does. So the guy that shot that guy is a modern day superhero to this under 30 age bracket in the United States of America. I'm like, what
Luigi.
the heck?
Luigi's like this weird cult hero now.
He is. And TikTok,
Absolutely.
social media has exploded him. And so what that's going to do for copycats that have a policy that's denied is going to inspire those copycats to do the same thing Luigi did to the CEO. And I have heard through other colleagues in the security industry that security companies have, like, I've heard there's like in 1 week, there's like $30 million in contracts given to a lot of CEO boards, in business contracts. I'm not going to say who the company was, but they are bolstering, bumping up their security for this following year. They have to, because what's the problem with security companies or companies as a whole is that, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, whatever they are, the security expense budget is below janitorial services at the very bottom line item in the corporate budget. It is. I've seen it. That's how seriously they used to take security for the leadership of their companies. It's below that budget.
And the victim in this case really didn't have any security, right? He was walking by himself on a Manhattan street.
Yeah, by himself.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like
why was that? Really?
I don't want to say things that aren't true about board decision. He just didn't have it. Maybe my theory is he didn't see that he was a big deal and he needed security. I'm just a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't know if it's a billion-dollar company.
A very unpopular multi-billion-dollar company.
Very exactly, Ted. Very well said. And so I think now the shareholders are thinking, we got to protect our brand. We got to protect our leadership. Oh crap! What happens if this happens to us? And so brand reputation is critical. Share values. You got to protect the share value of the company. You think about that guy got shot. How much value did that company lose in one day after that stock dropped?
Right.
That's millions and millions of dollars of equity lost in one day. And so I think the boards and the shareholders are rethinking, the C-suite are rethinking how they conduct business day to day. Oh, we don't need security. We don't need a bunch of bodyguards.
Right.
But I think Luigi changed that mindset in one day, unfortunately, to cost someone his life. And you think about the ideology of the under 30 age group and how they think now. The way of thinking is totally different from our age group. They're not thinking a career. They don't even think that way, right? They've given up hope. So you're
saying they're nihilists.
Exactly. Very well said. And so I think you're going to see a strengthening of security in that security budget that was below janitorial services go to the top, maybe the top 5 line items in that corporation's budget, I hope.
Are there certain sectors that are more vulnerable than others? I mean, for unpopular sectors, like obviously healthcare, but let's say cable companies or whatever, or are there other sectors that are less vulnerable, that are just they're just not on the radar as much?
I would say our energy sector, our water resource reservoirs. If somebody wanted to do an attack on the U.S., those water reservoirs are wide open. You get a drone, you can do whatever, and I think the terrorists know that. And I think as far as corporate entities, I mean, I think cyber is probably the biggest. If someone would want to take out the U.S., cyber would be the most effective way to do it. Cyber.
Yeah.
Well,
speaking of cyber, I mean, for example, somebody high profile like Elon Musk, I know for a fact that he travels with armed security all the time, everywhere, even before he became the owner of Twitter, and before I was covering the Detroit Auto Show many years ago, and I think it was the year that he was unveiling the first Tesla prototype, and I waited outside because I had heard he was coming, but I was outside. And he came after the whole thing closed down, and he was flanked by 4 guards, 2 in front of him, 2 behind him. So even little me running with a stick microphone he's a big guy, right? Like he's a big dude. And even little me, I mean, they were polite about it because they could see I'm not a threat, but I couldn't get anywhere near him. So somebody like him, even back then, was wise enough to put security at top of mind. And which is why I think people gave Elon Musk
he's also a celebrity CEO, right?
Well,
so he has
now.
He always has been.
Not always. Not back then. He didn't really blow up until after Tesla became a famous car
Right.
thing in the past decade. But this is like a while back, right? Like when he was debuting the car at the auto show. Like he was kind of famous in some circles, but not really. He wasn't the rabble rouser that we know him as today. But he, even back then, traveled with 4 security guards. And then people gave him a lot of shit recently on Twitter, even before he bought it, when he was giving that kid, he was talking shit to that kid that was tracking his jet.
Oh, right.
Because it's a security threat. And then people are like, oh, you're such a wuss, Elon Musk. And
No, I didn't blame him at all. I was like,
I don't blame him.
It's like it's his own platform. He's gonna let his own platform be used to track him and mess up his. I would not allow it either.
Well, I think about that social media. How much has it changed the way we perceive people? Like now that the shooter that shot the CEO, he's like due to social media and Instagram, he's like in TikTok, he's like famous, like crazy.
Right.
He's the most
For
sought
his age
after.
group.
It's his age group, and I think social media become a new detriment to our society and our culture, creating risks and threats we never thought we could even see or imagine happening today. You have all these wealthy trust fund kids traveling around on yachts. Stuff what they do, they take selfies and stuff of where they're at. Boom. You want to kidnap ransom in a foreign country, that's the best way to do it. And I know,
right? John Paul Getty the third, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
2.0.
Great movie there. And that's the new problems we have in today. We have a new technology, new way of communication, new platforms. And so these celebrity kids and trusty babies and trusty kids of billion-dollar family offices are traveling the world. Like, I think, what's her name? Hunt's family's daughter. She's all over Instagram. Oh, I'm here and here on the yacht and here on the yacht. I'm like, I hope they have security, because she's always, I follow Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, and I started following her to see what type of stuff she does, just as from a case study standpoint. And I'm like, there's a lot of people that do that. They show where they're at, what they're doing.
Yes.
And so they put themselves in a vulnerable position. So data protection is so critical in today's world. And I don't think people realize, like, well, I just need bodyguards. Well, you need to have protective intelligence as well. You need to have people that, have the know-how to go in the back door and scrub social media, scrub the internet to see what real threats are. Yeah, physical protection is really good for CEOs, but you also have to have the package of protective intelligence on the side to do your due diligence on LinkedIn and social media, see who your haters are.
What part does PR play in this kind of? I mean, obviously, United Healthcare has a major PR issue here. This is a crisis, right? Management issue. I mean, it seems to me like United Healthcare has not handled this very well. There was the only public statement that's really been made has been deploring what happened, sympathy for the CEO, and then the leaked the top president who his video to his employees basically saying we didn't do anything wrong and we shouldn't change anything. I mean, is this kind of like a Tylenol moment where a company like United Healthcare should say, of course, we are just devastated here about what happened to our CEO, and nothing like this should ever happen again. But that said, we are taking another look at the way we do things. I mean, is there a way to thread this needle without seeming to endorse or in any way, shape, or form validate what happened to Brian Thompson?
Yeah, I think you have a great conversation, Ted, because for me, I would say I have a good contact in Washington, D.C., Chris Newham. Shout out to Chris Newham. He's a lobbyist in D.C., and he also has a PR firm. And what those guys and gals do is, as Manila knows, being in broadcasting, you hire a PR firm to go full counter assault on whatever the conversation being said, and you just bury that down. You start spinning out the news, releases and change the subject heading. I mean, think about how many times the news cycle changed during the shooting of Trump. I saw it happen before my eyes on the different networks. They're just trying to change the subject as fast as they could, and then all of a sudden something new would happen. They just couldn't keep up. So I think PR is massively huge in today's world, and in misinformation and information. To get you want the right PR firm to protect your brand and your image, because if they don't catch it in time, it can destroy your stock value within an hour, within a day. So I think
that's true.
a different world we live in.
I mean, is there a way for a company like United to say, like, hey, we're kind of sorry about the fact that you guys hate us? You know,
what did they do? Did they ever do an apology for anything, or no?
No, and I can see why they wouldn't. I really can. But,
Okay.
you know, it might seem like, well, we're not going to say anything that
They gotta
seems to admit wrongdoing or that would seem that, like, what happened was okay.
Right.
But they haven't done that at all. And I think
good point.
It seems a little tone deaf.
Maybe the shareholders have decided to go that direction with their. I'm sure their general counsel is advising them on what to say, what not to say.
Well, a little humility would probably go a long way for them to revamp their image, right? Of like, hey, I get it. We've given the masses a lot of shit for your medical claims. We're looking at that from the ground up, you know, and then we're, you know, not just coming out and saying, oh, we're going to give all our C-level people armed security 24/7. You know, we're not going to do, like, that's the wrong approach. I could tell you from being in media, that is the wrong approach. You don't do that. You start with, no matter whether you mean it or not, you start with a humble sounding mea culpa and say, hey, we screwed up. We hear you. We understand why you all are mad at us. You know, we're looking at the claims one by one, but we have millions of customers. It's going to take time, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, even if they don't mean it, just the gesture of saying it, sounding humble would go a very long, be humble, show some humility. And, you know, then you can allow this, you know, the Thompson family to grieve peacefully if you put out those fires first. But like, you know, this, to your earlier point, Mark, about social media, like, I agree that I think, you know, I'm a Gen Xer too, right? Like I remember I went all the way past college without social media. It was kind of amazing.
How did we do it?
It was amazing. Right. Like,
Facebook wasn't even exist.
By the way, I would not go back and
I wouldn't either.
I'm so happy that it's we didn't have it.
Only God knows, Ted, the beer bongs and the shotgunning beer cans and stuff that I was a party to, that there's no evidence. No
that's
evidence.
True. No recording, no photos.
That's right.
But you lived. That's back when you lived in the moment. Back then, you lived in the day. You actually paid attention to what your friends were saying. Now, you get around teenagers, they're on their phone and they don't say anything. They're just texting each other.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is two parts on social media. Is one, it has changed how young people, their humanity, right? Like they're not like. That's why I would say Luigi, the shooter, the alleged shooter, is 26. So he's about the age of that gal you were talking about. So more or less in that generation, it's changed how they view humanity, how they connect with other people, as, you know, on the core level, that they would somehow not even view like justify taking somebody else's life as okay. Like that's where I'm from, is like, you know, like having Catholic roots, Christian roots, right? Is like a life is valuable, and you don't, you know, no matter who it is, you just, if you can avoid taking it, you don't take it. You know, but
Luigi was highly educated, wasn't he? Like
he's a rich kid.
Rich kid.
He's a rich kid from Maryland.
A rich kid from Maryland pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
What happened?
That
really
case
freaked
study out. Yeah, and people don't know if it was a psychotic break or
Could be.
It's just political. People wanted to make it personal, like, you know, maybe something happened to him, but there's no evidence that he was ever. Well, he was never a client of United Healthcare. There's no evidence that he was ever personally screwed over by a healthcare company.
Right.
He had that back surgery, but apparently, by his own account, it went well.
Right.
So it's not personal.
Very strange. Right. But his generation, again, the social media has kind of like made kids disconnect from humanity. That's my read of it anyway. But then also with social media, like you said, Mark, their faces are right here all the time. Doesn't that in and of itself pose a security risk to the average person in that age group? Like, hello, you're going to get mugged. You're going to get hit by a car. Like the New Orleans car ramming on New Year's morning, right?
Absolutely. Like, they're on their phones. If half of those guys were on their phones, they wouldn't have got hit.
They're taking selfies. Right. Like, if you're paying attention,
self-awareness,
you can avoid situational awareness stuff. You can avoid
absolutely
getting hurt. But like, I'm not implying this is a Brian Thompson thing, because as you can see, his hands, he was in his 50s, so he's in our
moving
age group.
along.
No, he
Right,
wasn't on his phone.
No, he was walking
Going
somewhere to.
point A to
He was
point B.
ambushed.
Yeah,
But here's a little secret advice for your audience that's listening to this that want to build a program. The biggest hits on principal, we call Brian, the CEO, a principal. And whenever they get hit, it's always from coming and going. It's never at the place, like leaving the house, going to work, leaving work to go home. Because somebody that's casing them or watching their behaviors for a couple of days, we call that surveillance. So usually, like Luigi, for example, he did his surveillance work on the principal. He knew that Brian would be there at X time, X day, at X hour. So he knew where to be because he already did surveillance on his victim. And so people that travel, C-suites that travel from point A to point B, most times they're going to be hit is leaving the house or leaving work to go. So it's during your movement time.
Well, like the Reagan assassination attempt by John Hinckley, right?
Right. So think about that. Anytime you're moving, it's when you're most vulnerable. That's why Secret Service always beefs up on the president when he's taking off or arriving. That's when you're most vulnerable. Because when
The
you're
rally
inside,
was very unusual, right? Because
absolutely, very unusual. That was anything I knew that was pre-planned when Luigi hit him. When he did, he had studied the timeline. He knew his itinerary. He knew what he was doing. He knew where to catch him. He did his homework.
Wow.
I mean, I know this is, I don't know if this is your wheelhouse or not, but I mean, I'm sure you've thought about it. What do you make of the sort of mix of the profile of Luigi Mangione, assuming that he is the killer, he's innocent until proven guilty? It's like in many ways he seemed to have been very smart. And then in other ways, he seems to have been really stupid. The smart stuff, for example, traveling from Midtown Manhattan up to the George Washington Bridge bus terminal, disappearing in there so that law enforcement would believe that he'd taken that to go to New Jersey, but then getting onto the subway, going back downtown, taking a train out of Penn Station. That's smart. But then he's at the youth hostel. And first of all, why stay in the youth hostel where people are going to see you every day? But also, he's at the youth hostel. And then at one point, the lady at the front desk says, I need to see your face to see if it goes with the ID. Why not just say, you know what? I'm going to have to leave and stay somewhere else. And, and that's what did him in, right?
Yeah,
ultimately.
Good point. Good point.
It's like, is that typical where someone can be really smart in some ways and really stupid in others?
It's almost like he studied some secrets, like special forces training ops, and how he disappeared the way he did, using cash and transaction, not debit card, to be traced. And almost like he did some studying before he did all this stuff. And so, that's why he's so elusive and hard to catch, because he had used tactics not to, show himself by using debit card or credit cards or any type of transaction. And so, but then all of a sudden
he left his bag in Central Park. What's with that? What for? Why?
Great question.
Why not just chuck it in a lake or, the Hudson River?
Throw it down the river, the Potomac. See ya.
Yeah.
Look,
take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. That's a good question.
Well, yeah, no one can explain. There are a lot of weird holes.
Why was he still carrying the gun?
I was just going to say that.
I don't
when
know.
they caught him, if it's a ghost gun or whatever they claimed it was.
Get those chicken McNuggets to go.
Right, right, he's hanging out like that. All those parts sound super weird to me, because he otherwise seemed like he.
I think he's such an academic and so book smart. But common sense wasn't really common sense.
Why wouldn't you throw that ghost gun in the lake or clean it off and toss it somewhere?
Right.
Why is it on your person? And why, if you're trying to evade police, why on God's green earth would you be carrying your supposed manifesto about killing him?
Bad idea.
I don't.
Common sense versus academic book smart. He's a book smart kind of guy, but he couldn't keep himself out of getting caught. But I think he did what he wanted to do to become famous.
You think so? Well, I mean,
look how he reacts. Though the cameras are on, see the narcissism coming out of him.
I can see that.
He's living. I think he's truly living for a cause.
It was a political statement for sure.
Yeah, he definitely believes in what he did to be right. justice
Yeah,
in his mind.
No doubt.
when they perp walked him out in New York, but Mayor Adams also used that for his own,
Oh,
you
God.
know,
Not
like
a good
that was
look.
so tacky and
Yeah.
gross. But like Luigi definitely was like, yeah, I'm the man.
Not to mention,
like,
all
when
I
he
was thinking is Mayor Adams should be being perp walked too. I mean, he's indicted.
that's a different conversation entirely about Mayor Adams and what's like
Yeah,
what's
we live
happening in New
crazy
York.
times. But I
Yeah.
hope the inauguration goes well for the sake of the country, and for the sake of the
For
people,
sure.
and for the safety of for the presidency. I hope it goes flawlessly, and nothing happens. That's my hope, my prayer for the country and for the office. But it's gonna be a busy week. I'll be glued to my TV all day because I'm a security guy and I watch stuff too much probably, and I have to take a TV break and social media break like everybody else. But I think we're going to see the next 4 years is going to be some of the craziest times we've ever seen on U.S. soil. Again, because you have millions and millions of people that cross that U.S. border from Mexico. Who knows where they came from? But like Sarah said on the Sean Ryan show, that we have enemies on our soil that want to do us harm, and they're still here. And so that's my biggest concern more than anything. And then you're gonna always have the copycats out there. And I'm sure we'll have copycats act out like they did 4 years ago when the streets of burning in the country during the last presidential race. So they're getting ready to put that together out there. And inauguration, I was out there DC back in Thanksgiving, running around checking it all out. They're fortifying everything. They're getting everything ready back in Thanksgiving time.
Right after he won.
Yep, I was out there checking it out for an OSAC briefing with the State Department.
They've also fortified Trump Tower here in New York. The entire block behind Trump Tower is permanently closed to
well
car
done.
traffic.
Okay.
No kidding.
There's police booths on both sides of the street, and you can bike or walk, but you can't.
Interesting.
You can't take a motor vehicle.
So is it closed off like how the White House, the front of the White House, is closed off?
Mm-hmm. It's like there's bollards. And there's no way you're not. I mean, even a truck bomber would not be able to get in there.
Yeah, I heard Mar-a-Lago is going to be in the new Camp David, is what I'm hearing from my contacts.
Well, I mean, that could be.
Makes
that's
sense.
Cool.
Yeah, because everybody likes to go to Mar-a-Lago. It's warmer than DC. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Trump administration does that. If he's going to spend more time in Mar-a-Lago than DC.
Well, I mean,
who knows?
They've from what I've heard that he's had skiffs and stuff built in somewhere on the premises, so it's very possible. And we're looking, by the way, at this isn't actually live, but this is very recent footage from local news here in DC and what they're doing to set up for the inauguration. Mm-hmm. And this is a dress rehearsal, so I
hope they have that glass.
Yeah, I'm looking for that
bulletproof glass. Like it should be. I think Trump's like 6'5". He's tall. He's a tall guy. So that bulletproof glass, I hope the bulletproof glass, I hope would be like 8 feet tall around that whole perimeter. I would hope.
And they don't search everyone who attends this, do they? Or do they have to go through metal detectors? Or I don't even know.
No, only the people that are. I only know from just having to report on it is that only the people that are around the president. Like if you're on the other side of the glass, no. But if you're on behind the glass with Trump, all those people are dignitaries or other politicians or whatever, and very, very wealthy donors. And for Trump's inauguration, he's had so many wealthy donors give money that they can't accommodate all of them. This is specifically for inauguration funds that they cannot accommodate all the rich people. And the rich people aren't even angry that they can't go, but they're using that, from what I heard, is that they're using that towards security. Great. So
brilliant.
I mean, I don't know if last question to you, Mark. I know we've bent your ear for much longer than we're supposed to, but given that this is like a federal thing, right? The inauguration of a U.S. president, it's like federal security. Right, it's federal money, federal security. Can private security also be contracted too, or is that like a no because it's a federal thing?
On the inauguration, that's a good question. My thoughts are probably I'd go military, DOD,
Oh,
the government, Secret Service, all State Department,
oh, so
all those agencies probably there to fortify. I don't think they would use private security internally. Maybe externally on the streets and stuff. They keep eyes and maybe observation, maybe do the surveillance, maybe do that and report. But yeah, I don't see them using private security too much internally. I think that's all government folk. But I could be wrong on that, on how Trump's doing this time. Who knows? I'm not.
Right.
I'm not privy to that information.
Right. I was just wondering if maybe it's a possibility if private security contractors can be involved, or if this is strictly, just government guns and no outside hired guns.
Maybe, yeah, you're a government contractor as a security organization. I'm sure you could probably do something with them as long as you clear classified background checks and all that. You could probably work in that. But I'm not privy on how they're doing the inauguration, if they include private security and that stuff. I do know folks that have worked on the exterior side of that. But once you get behind the glass, I think that all changes. That's all government, Secret Service, and all law enforcement officers of some agency that is active. Is my thought.
Yeah. And after the J6 events, my office used to be right smack downtown, stone's throw from the White House. Nancy Pelosi ordered, massive security after J6, right? There were corridors, because I was within that corridor, that they closed off entire streets. Like, it was like a war zone where I couldn't get through anywhere. I mean, I could, because, I had proof that I had to go to my office and go to work, but the streets were cordoned off. There was National Guard walking around, and in many cases, they didn't have any mags in and people were scared. I could see that, and I would tell the person standing next to me, like, don't worry, they're not really armed. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're carrying long rifles. And I go, look right there, there's no mag in it, and he has no mags on his belt, so it's just
interesting.
show. So but the point is, it was a display of strength, right? So they really could potentially do something like that and erect it in like a matter of moments, like the day before the inauguration. So I wouldn't personally, like, living out here, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they did for the whole Trump thing, to avoid the chaos and the tens of millions of dollars that businesses experienced as far as like rioters, so and general safety. So
I think DC will be locked down. I think that's my theory. They're going to lock that place down with military guards, and then your different layers of agencies, police officers, and it's going to be so tight you're not going to be able to get in there unless you have that all access or something like that. That's my thought.
I would agree. Mark
That's what, 8 days from now?
A week from today.
Whoa.
So exactly 7 days. Exactly 7 days. So at around this time, a week from now, we should have a brand new president in office. The same as the old president from before. So like old boss, same as the new boss, same as the old boss.
Oh, they're probably a little different. I'm betting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's been through a lot and he's learned a lot.
Yeah, he's a different Trump this time. I can tell. I think when he got shot, that kind of changed a lot. I think from a spiritual standpoint, from a human standpoint, from I think he. Oh my God, I could have died that day.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That does change you.
And I think that's what got Elon Musk and Zuckerberg like. Whoa, that guy's a badass.
You guys really think he had an epiphany moment, like a come to Jesus moment?
I'm not saying he's going to be like, suddenly like Mother Teresa, but I mean, I think, any near-death experience usually changes you. I mean, the bullet grazed his ear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, having, I don't know if you guys have had near-death experiences. I have. Most people have. And when you have it, you're like, whoa!
It rattles you.
You're rattled. It changes you. He came off. He's more sober. He's more serious.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, he does still talk shit, but he's still Donald Trump. But yeah, I mean,
keep him off Twitter. People might respect him more.
That would be smart. Yeah.
Oh,
although
Elon's there.
President, so
But Elon would jump all over him, and so did Mark Zuckerberg. And he made comment, that guy's a badass. He had blood dripping all up. He got his hands up. It was a fight, fight, fight.
Undeniable.
And I think that's what got the respect of Elon and Zuckerberg. When they saw that, they're like, whoa.
Whoa, dude. They had a dude moment.
Dude, that's a warrior. That's a warrior spirit. Would Biden do that? Probably not.
Oh, no. Like, it would have caught him. We'll just say that.
Yeah. For the sake of the presidency and for human life, I don't wish that on anybody. I don't care what.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I joke, but I do not wish murder on anybody. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I don't wish that on anybody. And it would be especially horrible as you're the president of the United States, what that does to the rest of the country and the world in foreign policy and all of that stuff. It was just be terrible. Mark Ledlow, we'll leave that right there. We talked your ear off for a little bit too long. We appreciate you staying overtime with us. Mark Ledlow is a former U.S. Marine, founder of Ledlow Security, a veteran-owned security company that offers worldwide asset protection, executive protection, and emergency response services. Ledlow specializes in threat and risk assessment services to private and governmental agencies. As you said there, you were just in D.C. in the fall and meeting with the government side of things. So they need expertise like yours. Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for coming.
Happy New Year.
Appreciate it.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, a week out, Ted. So here we are. So there it is. I wonder, I need to check the exact time because we might still be on air when Trump is sworn in.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
What time
that happens at 12 noon.
Really?
The ceremony begins at 12 noon. I don't think he'll be sworn in. He might be sworn in exactly at 12. It might be one of those things where it starts.
Is that a constitutional thing?
Oh yeah, no. The president becomes. He takes office at 12 noon.
Oh, I thought it was earlier. I thought it was like 10.
No way.
12 noon. Oh, all right. Well, I guess we'll be off air, and I was going to say we could take that video live, but that's not going to happen. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Manila Chan, Ted Rall, you are watching the TMI show, Ted Manila Information Show. Thank you, Putinbot, for swinging the hammer as always and monitoring the chat. That's, of course, producer Robbie. And shout out to Well Dressed Nerd. Thank you for the donation.
Thank you.
We appreciate that, of course. And of course, our regulars are all in the chat. Shout out to you guys for keeping it spicy in there. Please remember to hit subscribe no matter what platform you're on. And if you're in the financial position to support the show, we greatly appreciate that. And if not, we appreciate you being our hype man or woman, a hype person, and sharing our stuff on your social media, because that's going to help us grow too. And then we won't be begging you to help support us financially, because then, the masses will do that because everybody's going to start watching, Ted. That's how this works. So let's do it. All right. Ted, by the way, you're on mute. So if you want to say bye, you better unmute.
Bye.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hasta mañana, everybody. Thank you.